In the most densely populated stretch of land in Australia, surrounded by millions of people, their houses, their gardens, and their backyard swimming pools, there lives a spider that should not be as hard to get rid of as it is. It can survive a full day or more underwater. Its fangs go straight through a human fingernail. It shrugs off the pesticides that kill ordinary spiders in seconds. Its venom is, by a strange quirk of biology, specifically catastrophic to humans, while a dog or a cat can be bitten and barely notice. And despite all of that, despite living right on top of one of the largest cities in the country, no one has managed to wipe it out, and no one is really trying anymore. Because here is the twist this entire story is built around, the thing that turns a creature of pure nightmare into something far stranger. The people of Sydney have stopped trying to kill this spider and started keeping it alive on purpose. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why, and it is not the reason you think. This is the Sydney funnel web, and it may be the single most difficult animal to kill in the entire Pacific. Let's meet it properly because the danger is concentrated in a way that matters. The Sydney funnel web, Atrax robustus, is one of around 40 related species that make up the funnel web family in Australia, but it is the most infamous of all, and its range is unnervingly specific. It lives in a band of roughly 160 kilometers centered on Sydney, which happens to be one of the most heavily urbanized regions on the entire continent. This is not a spider of remote deserts and untouched forest. It is a spider of suburbs, of garden beds, of garages and rockeries, and the cool, damp space under the back step. It is not large. The body of an adult runs somewhere between 1 and 5 centimeters, small to medium by spider standards, nothing like the giant your imagination wants it to be, but it does not need size. It is a glossy, hard, jet black animal, and it carries a pair of fangs so prominent and so darkly shining that you can see them from across a room, angled and ready. It lives in a burrow lined with silk that fans out at the opening into the funnel shape that gives the family its name. The females are homebodies that can live for up to 20 years, an extraordinarily long life for a spider, rarely straying far from the silk-lined tunnel they dig. And here is the first thing that runs against everything you assume about spiders. It is not the female you have to worry about, it is the male. But to understand why, you first have to understand the weapon. And the weapon starts with the fangs, because the fangs are the first impossible thing about this animal. Most venomous spiders, even the dangerous ones, carry thin, delicate fangs designed for soft targets, for the yielding bodies of insects and the thin skin of a careless hand. They puncture, they inject, and that is all they are built to do. The funnel web is different. Its fangs are large, hard and powerful, closer to the tools of a small predator than the hypodermics of a typical spider, and they can drive through materials that no ordinary spider could dream of penetrating. They go through a human fingernail. That is not a figure of speech, and it is not an exaggeration. Clinical cases describe the fangs piercing the nail in the soft leather of shoes. Sit with what that means for a second, because it quietly demolishes the one piece of comfort you instinctively reach for. With almost any other spider, the rule is simple. Cover your skin and you are safe. Wear closed shoes in the garden and nothing can reach you. With the funnel web, that rule does not hold. The fangs are strong enough to defeat the very barriers you would put up to protect yourself, and that single fact reframes the whole encounter. This is not an animal you can simply armor yourself against, and the fangs are only the delivery system. What they deliver is far stranger. Here is the pillar that makes this animal genuinely unique in the entire animal kingdom, and the one almost every other video about it gets wrong or glosses over. The funnel web's venom is, by a bizarre accident of nature, specifically and disproportionately lethal to human beings. The key toxin is called delta atrichotoxin, and it works by attacking the sodium channels in your nervous system, the microscopic gates that let your nerves fire. Instead of letting those gates close the way they should, the toxin jams them open, so the nerves fire again and again uncontrollably, flooding the body with signals it cannot switch off. The result in a serious bite is a body in chaos, heavy sweating, drooling, muscles twitching and seizing, blood pressure swinging violently, and in the worst untreated cases, fluid filling the lungs and the cardiovascular system failing entirely. It is fast, it is violent, and it can unfold over a matter of hours. But here is the part that turns a horror story into a genuine scientific mystery. That same venom, so devastating to a human being, does almost nothing to most other mammals. A dog can be bitten and walk it off. A cat, a rabbit, a mouse, a horse. Animals you would expect to be far more fragile than us are largely resistant, shrugging off doses that would put a person in intensive care. And that raises a question that sounds almost impossible to answer. Why would a small Australian spider evolve a venom so exquisitely tuned to kill primates? The answer is that it almost certainly did not. And that is what makes it so fascinating. The funnel web has existed in Australia for tens of millions of years. Primates, human beings, only arrived on the continent around 60,000 years ago, a mere blink at the end of that immense span. For almost the entire evolutionary history of this spider, there were no primates anywhere in its world for its venom to target. It could not have evolved to kill us because we were not there. The leading explanation is that this part of the venom evolved not to capture prey at all, but as a defense, a way of punishing the animals that tried to eat the spider, and that our catastrophic sensitivity to it is essentially a tragic coincidence. Our sodium channels, the locks that toxin happens to fit, are by sheer chance almost perfectly shaped for it. Far more vulnerable than those of the dogs and cats and rabbits the spider actually shared its world with. We are not the target. We are collateral, an animal that wandered onto the continent tens of millions of years too late and discovered that a weapon built for something else fit us better than it fit anything alive. There is something almost humbling in that. The deadliest thing about this spider, as far as we're concerned, is an accident that has nothing to do with us at all. Now, back to the question of why it is the male you fear, because the answer ties the danger to a season and a place. In most of the world's notorious spiders, the black widow and her relatives, it is the female who carries the dangerous bite. The funnel web flips that completely. The male's venom is several times more potent to a human than the female's, and in practice almost every serious bite on record has come from a male. The reason is in how they live. The female stays home year after year, safe in her burrow. The male, once mature, abandons the burrow and goes wandering, searching for females to mate with, and he does this during the warm, humid months of the Australian spring and summer, roughly October through April. A wandering male is an exposed male, out in the open, away from shelter, far more likely to meet a predator, and the pressure of all that exposure appears to have driven his venom to its extreme potency. And here is where the spider's world collides with ours, because a male funnel web wandering through a Sydney summer does not stay in the bush. He blunders into garages, into laundries, into shoes left by the back door, and fatefully into swimming pools. He falls in, and he does not drown, which sets up the single most common dangerous encounter of all. A person reaching into the pool to scoop out what looks like a small, dead, harmless spider lying at the bottom, only to find that it is neither dead nor harmless. And that is no accident of the spiders, but a consequence of the next impossible thing about it. Because the funnel web does not give up, and it does not drown. Start with how it bites. Most spiders, even aggressive ones, deliver a single defensive nip and flee. The funnel web does the opposite. When it feels cornered, it rears up, exposing those fangs, and it strikes repeatedly, driving them in again and again, and then it holds on. There are clinical accounts of patients arriving at hospital with the spider still clamped to the hand or the foot, refusing to let go. This is not the panicked hit-and-run defense of an ordinary spider. It is sustained, committed aggression, and it means a single encounter can become multiple envenomations in seconds. And then there is the water. The funnel web breathes through structures called book lungs, stacked folds of tissue tucked into its abdomen, and when it is submerged, it can effectively seal and trap a film of air around its body, a silvery bubble that keeps it alive far longer than anything that size has any right to manage. Dropped into water, it slows down, goes still, and waits. And it can wait for a very long time, surviving underwater for a full day or more. In some experiments, considerably longer. Think about what that does to your options. You cannot drown it. Flooding its burrow does not work. It simply seals up and waits out the water. The spider you fished, apparently lifeless, out of the bottom of your pool may have been down there for hours, and it is not dead at all. It is merely waiting, and the moment it is in your hand, it wakes up. This is the heart of why this animal earns the title. The most obvious way humans kill small unwanted creatures, water, simply does not apply. And neither, it turns out, do most of the chemicals. The funnel web is notably more resistant to the common household and garden pesticides, the pyrethroids and organophosphates, than the ordinary spiders sharing the same suburb. Several things conspire to protect it. A thick, tough cuticle that the poisons struggle to cross, a life spent largely underground and out of contact with sprayed surfaces, and a slow, economical metabolism that lets it endure stresses that would kill a faster animal. The same toughness extends to drought. Sealed in the stable, cool, humid microclimate of its silk-lined burrow, a funnel web can endure long dry spells that would desiccate and kill the common spiders above ground, slowing itself down and simply outlasting the heat. So tally it up honestly. You cannot reliably keep it out because its fangs defeat your shoes. You cannot poison it the easy way because it resists the sprays. You cannot drown it because it breathes from a bubble and waits you out. You cannot dry it out because its burrow holds its own weather. By every conventional method a person reaches for to be rid of a dangerous pest, the Sydney funnel web is very nearly impossible to kill, which leaves one question hanging over the whole story. If this animal is this lethal and this indestructible, and it lives on top of a city of millions, then why is it not a catastrophe? Why are people not dying every summer? The answer is the twist, and it is one of the proudest achievements in Australian medicine. Before 1981, the funnel web was exactly the catastrophe you would expect. At least 13 deaths were recorded over the decades, some of them children, each one a fast and terrifying decline that doctors could do little to stop. And then, in 1981, a team led by the zoologist Strawn Sutherland, working at the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, produced an antivenom. It worked, and it worked almost perfectly. From the moment it became available, the deaths simply stopped. Since 1981, in more than 4 decades, not a single person has died from a funnel web bite. An animal that had killed for as long as anyone could remember was in a sense defeated overnight, not by killing it but by curing its victims. And the way that antivenom is made is the detail that makes the whole story click into place. To produce it, you need the venom, a great deal of it, milked drop by drop from living spiders. And to turn that venom into medicine, you inject tiny, controlled doses of it into an animal whose blood can build antibodies against it without being killed in the process. The animal they use is the rabbit, one of the very mammals that, as we have seen, is naturally resistant to the venom that devastates us. The rabbit's body manufactures the defense. That defense is purified into the antivenom, and the antivenom saves the human lives the spider threatens, which means the venom has to keep coming. And that leads to the single most extraordinary thing about how Australia lives alongside this animal. For decades, the Australian Reptile Park has run a funnel web venom program, milking live spiders to keep the antivenom in production. And they cannot do it with spiders they catch themselves alone. So they ask the public. Every summer in the heart of funnel web country, the official sincere request goes out to ordinary residents. If you find one of the deadliest spiders on the planet in your garden or your garage, do not kill it. Catch it, safely coax it into a jar, and bring it in alive so it can be milked for the venom that makes the cure. Stop and picture the sheer audacity of that. A wildlife park is asking the general population to capture, by hand with a household jar, an aggressive spider whose fangs go through fingernails and whose bite once killed children, and to deliver it across the city in the passenger seat. And people do it. Thousands of spiders are handed in this way, and every one of them feeds the supply line that keeps the death toll at 0. It is, in the most literal sense imaginable, Australia operating in Australia mode. So look at the whole picture now, because the ending is not the one the title sets you up to expect. The most resistant animal in the Pacific was never actually defeated. You cannot kill it, you cannot drown it, you cannot poison it, and you cannot dry it out. Every weapon a frightened person would reach for fails against it. And yet the danger it once posed has been reduced to almost nothing, not by destroying the spider but by understanding it, by taking the very venom that made it lethal, and turning it into the thing that saves us from it. The Sydney funnel web is, as far as anyone knows, the only spider on Earth whose continued survival is genuinely necessary for human safety, an animal we now protect and gather and keep alive precisely because of how dangerous it is. It cannot be killed. And it turns out it never needed to be. The story of the deadliest spider in Australia does not end with an exterminator. It ends with a truce and with a jar. And if a small black spider in a Sydney garden can rewrite everything you thought you knew about what nature is capable of, then stay close to that same corner of Australia, because not far from the heartland of the funnel web lives an animal whose talent is even harder to believe. It does not bite, and it cannot hurt you, but it can imitate the scream of a chainsaw, the click and whir of a camera shutter, and the sound of a human voice so perfectly that you cannot tell it is a bird at all. They call it the lyrebird, and what comes out of its throat should not be possible.